Don't let one bad leg haunt your parlay. Parlays turn into payouts, and now even near misses won't haunt your bet. The NFL season is here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is rewriting the rules with Ghost Leg, a new game-changing promotion that turns close calls into cold, hard cash. Best of all, it's available to all DraftKings customers. Here's how it works. Build any 3+ leg pregame NFL parlay on Sunday, apply your Ghost Leg token, and if one leg loses, DraftKings makes it vanish like it never existed and pays you out in cash for the rest. Last season, over 30 million parlays were lost by a single leg. This year, Ghost Leg gives those busted bets a second life. No more busted parlays that haunt you all season. With Ghost Leg, the bad leg vanishes. The payout doesn't. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code PFF. That's code PFF to unlock Ghost Leg, the promotion that makes one bad leg disappear and pays you out in real cash. Ghost your losses, get your payout in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. All right, let's get to the Saturday slate right now, starting off with number 12 Clemson at Georgia Tech, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. Storyline really is, can Clemson pull it together right now? Because I had Clemson winning it all in the preseason. I had them as the number one team in the country preseason. Dalton, you had them as your runner-up, I believe, right, to Alabama in your national title game too. So even though they started off as the number one team in the country, and I think it was number 4 for the AP poll, Clemson has looked really shaky through 2 weeks so far. They opened their year with a home loss to then number 9 LSU, and they trailed by 13 points against Troy this past week too. They did mount a big second half comeback to win that game 27-16, but that's the type of game that you want to see Clemson dominate all the way through. They did not look dominant until the second half of that game against Troy. They now enter a pivotal week 3 road game against Georgia Tech, and I know they're not ranked right now, Dalton. I would rank Georgia Tech right now. After their 2-0 start to the season, they beat Colorado in week 1. They're currently ranked in the PFF top 25. They're 2-0. It's not a game you want to play around with in your first road game for Clemson.
First road game, and Clemson, I think the story is really offensively, especially they just haven't played good football yet, right? They've got the Antonio Williams injury they're dealing with. They're struggling to run the football. And Georgia Tech, let's be honest, they know their identity as long as there's Haynes King with the health question. But if he goes, they know exactly what they want to be. It's exactly what we saw against Colorado. They ran for, 320 yards in that game? That's what they want to be. It's ball control. It's physicality. It's milking the clock, right? It's everything that really is prime for an upset bid. When you think about last year against Miami, and Haynes King couldn't even throw the ball in that game with a shoulder injury. They were bringing in, Zach Pyron or Aaron Philo to come in and throw. I think it was Philo in that game too, to come in and throw the ball. He started the game last week against Gardner-Webb. You just look at a Georgia Tech team who knows who they are. And if they get to be who they are early in this game, Clemson might be on red alert here.
Tell me more about Clemson and really just what is going wrong with this offense right now.
Their offense right now is giving them a lot of the same problems as it did early last year, right? We had these same concerns when they lost to Georgia, and it was shaky early. The big game against App State, but that's App State. But I think the thing it starts, and it's the old phrase, it starts up front, Max. I just think their offensive line is not playing very well, and they've got veteran guys. There's 6 guys on this offensive line that get significant snaps because they rotate 3 guys between the 2 guard spots. They've always done that, but none of them are grading above a 68. Blake Miller is the highest one at 67.6. You lead that to the unit rankings. Out of the 136 teams in PFF grade on their offensive line, Clemson's number 100. They're number 103 in run blocking grade. Impact run blocking percentage, which is the percentage of time that you're getting a positive grade up front, 123rd. The run blocking, they just can't run the football. We've talked so much about the running backs being a weakness. Is it Adam Randall? Is it Gideon Davidson? Whatever's going, it doesn't even matter because they're not blocking well up front. Even, LSU is one thing, but even against Troy, they didn't run block well, and they're just barely inside the top 100 in pass blocking grade and pressure percentage. So you're talking about, look, Georgia Tech, Jordan Vandenberg and those guys, is it the best defensive line in the country? No, but it's good enough to compete with a unit playing like that. This team has to be better up front. They have to be more physical. They have to be able to have balance and run the ball in this offense. And the lack of Antonio Williams, and I don't know if he's going to play this week with his injury after missing the last game and a half, but if they don't have the deep ball and they can't run the football, then you've got a small window of things that you can do. Because right now, Clemson, they're not completing the deep ball because everyone's sitting back and going, okay, run the ball or check it down, make Cade Klubnik work for it. They don't have balance, and their trench play right now is not great up front. It's going to have to be better in this game. If their offensive line, to me, plays the way that they did the first 2 weeks, especially because we've seen overall with Clemson, Max, I've watched them play 6 quarters of bad offensive football and then 2 quarters of decent offensive football against Troy. And Troy kind of just got rattled in the second half and it fell apart and they made mistakes. This has not been a good offense so far. The entire operation, Cade Klubnik bailed him out of the Troy game, but the offensive line has not been good. There's not much explosiveness in the run game. Adam Randall's had a couple of nice runs, but there's not much going there, especially before contact. And then the Antonio Williams injury as the veteran in that receiver. There's a lot to be concerned about here with Clemson. And you know one thing I'm concerned about, and you're going to talk about Georgia Tech's offense, Haynes King and all that. Clemson, time of possession is a major issue, and it's a major issue in this game. I think through their 2 games, they're averaging only 25 minutes of time of possession. And against last week, I think it was only 27. They lost time of possession last week against Troy. So if you lose time of possession that heavily in this game, you're playing into Georgia Tech's hands. They have to establish some balance. They got to play better in the trenches.
They really do. They really, really do. And you mentioned the Antonio Williams injury for Clemson. I'm worried a little about Georgia Tech, too, because Haynes King did not play in week 2 against Gardner-Webb due to a nagging lower body injury, which is understandable if you go back and watch that game against Colorado because of how much he was used as kind of a battering ram for Georgia Tech in their offense in that game. He ran 20 times for 156 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Buffaloes, with another 6 first downs coming on the ground. He entered the year with a shoulder injury too, and now he's got a lower body injury that kept him out of that game against Gardner-Webb. While his backup quarterback in Aaron Philo is a talented passer, he looked really good against Gardner-Webb, he doesn't provide the same dynamism as a runner that Haynes King has. And we've seen Clemson's run defense have some issues last year, too, with mobile quarterbacks like Lenora Sellers. Head coach Brent Key did say that he expects Haynes King to be practicing this week, and he was kind of a game-time decision last week against Gardner-Webb. I think it really came down to he probably could have played against Gardner-Webb, but they knew, hey, we're going to be able to take care of this game with or without Haynes King. Let's keep him healthy, let him rest for a week, and then play this game as Clemson where we really do need him. But if Haynes King is out or even not close to 100%, that's a distinct advantage, I think, for Clemson's defense, too. So really my matchup to watch is how healthy will we see a Haynes King be, or will we see Haynes King at all on Saturday?
I think you're going to see him. And I believe Brent Key even said King was suited up, and if we needed him for any reason to play, he could have played. But I think the smart thing to do is, look, save him for Clemson, save him for the biggest game of the year maybe for this team, right? And if you start 1-0 in the ACC with a win over Clemson, all of a sudden you feel like a contender because it's going to take everything Haynes King has to win this game. It's good to see Malik Rutherford back healthy. He played well last week. So this Georgia Tech offense, if King is 100%, they're fully loaded to try to really wear down Clemson here. And I think one guy I really want to see on Clemson's defense, see how he responds in this game. The linebacker Sammy Brown, the sophomore, right? He's their highest graded run defender other than Peter Woods on this team. Wade Wood, as their other linebacker, he played against Georgia Tech 2 years ago. Sammy Brown has never seen Georgia Tech, and I've told you before, linebacker is the hardest position to play against this team with all of the motion, with all of the option, with the way that you have to read it and read to the football and stick to your assignment. Sammy Brown's the guy I'm really looking for, how much Georgia Tech attacks him specifically with all sorts of run concepts and see just how he responds and if he can fit this thing upright, because that's always a problem with Georgia Tech is how your linebackers are going to respond to all the different looks you get.
And I know they, like I said, they did rest Haynes King. I think that's what happened last week. But even so, he's going to be at least not 100%. I don't think in this game against Clemson. And in that game against Colorado, he was great on the ground, but only a 61.7 passing grade against Colorado too. So that shoulder injury, now this lower body injury for Haynes King, I do not think we'll see 100% Haynes King on Saturday, which could be a big factor in determining who wins or loses this ballgame. Dalton, ultimately, will Clemson get their season back on track against Georgia Tech, or will they fall to 1-2 on the season after entering the year a top 5 team in the country?
Boy, oh boy, does Clemson need this game. They really need this game, not only for the sake of getting the first ACC win and staying in the driver's seat and proving that they're okay, they're okay after a loss and then a tough, weird win against Troy. Haynes King, through the injury, he's kind of proved through injuries and through just certain performances he's had. He's also proven to us that he's one of the toughest players in college football. And I'm gonna stick to the same thing I said in that first game. I feel like I know Cade Klubnik's really good. I know we have TJ Moore, Bryant Wesco. I'm not sure if Antonio Williams is playing in this game, if he'll be back or not. I guess Clemson sort of has an identity, but when I watch them, I don't feel like they do. Georgia Tech has an identity. And if Haynes King is healthy, they can stick to that as long as possible. They're one of the best time of possession teams in the country. Clemson's one of the worst time of possession teams in the country. They're not stringing drives together consistently. Georgia Tech can do that and control this game on the ground. And we know Georgia Tech's got one big upset in them a year at least. I'm taking the Yellow Jackets. I'm going to do it. I think going into Atlanta, Clemson, the obvious way that they win this game is just that Cade Klubnik's the best player on the field, which is cool. If they do that and Georgia Tech's pretty vulnerable in the secondary, then fine. As we say all the time with Georgia Tech, if they get into that identity early and they're controlling the pace of the game, and look, they even got to do it against Colorado when they had three turnovers early in the game, right? And they recovered from that. They play a clean game, and they get to run in the ball against this defense. And again, I think a big matchup, Sammy Brown and Wade Wood as a linebacker. If they can get in on those guys and get to the second level, I'll take Georgia Tech to pull it off 27-24.
Wow. All right, you're selling all stock on Clemson right now then.
I still like their defense. Their defense, if those two guys, especially Brown and Woodaz, play well, then you got another situation. Anytime you can force Haynes King into obvious passing third and long, you feel good. I feel good about their defense. This offense is not clicking in any way whatsoever, and it's if they don't sustain drives early, and this time of possession gets to a point, like let's say they come out of the first half and the time of possession is 20-10, Clemson's on DEFCON 5. I mean, just absolutely panic mode because they just won't have the ball enough to make those high-flying plays.
I'm taking Clemson here, 31-21. Haynes King's banged up. I'm worried about him and just how close to fully healthy he will be in this game. And I think you look at Georgia Tech's defense. I mean, they're 57th in pass rush grade right now. They're 116th in coverage grade right now. This is a bad matchup. And Dabo Swinney recently said that Antonio Williams is day-to-day, and he's hoping he'll be back for this game against Georgia Tech. So it might have been also a case of Dabo thinking, okay, we can get by against Troy without Antonio Williams. He was close to being wrong there. But he might have been resting him for this game. So hopefully we see Antonio Williams back. I think that'll be a big return for that Clemson offense. So with that, the Clemson defense playing great this year, Haynes King not being 100%, and Georgia Tech's defense doesn't look like it has the defense to really take advantage of the problems with Clemson's offense right now. I think Clemson will win this game on the road 31-21 and get their year back on track.
If I'm Georgia Tech, and yes, they've had struggles in the secondary for a year plus, I'm sitting as far back as possible. I would just dare them. I would dare them to hand the football off. I would just dare them to do it. Just go, this is a moment. I don't always love bend but don't break. This is a bend but don't break moment. Don't let them have the deep ball. Keep it in front of you. Keep it in front of you. And if they, if the difference in this game for Clemson could be in the red zone where they'll have to earn it. If they can hold them to threes instead of sevens, I really like Georgia Tech's chances. And they have struggled. No question they've struggled on the back end, especially for more than a year. Just keep it in front of you, and you got a shot. It's kind of like what we talked about with USF in Florida last week. If you just keep yourself in it in the second, you don't have to play great. Just keep yourself in it. Then I really think Georgia Tech's at a big advantage.